1. A little background before I start. I used to work for a popular makeup store where the employees all wear black. My manager would send me and another co-worker to other stores to help out with things like training, inventory, and organization because we were good at it. One particular location, we found out during an inventory, hadn't set up planograms for over 8 months and just kept keeping new product in the backroom in boxes. If you don't know what a planogram is, it's the layout of the shelves, hooks, product. This was a big job for us. Essentially, the whole store was out of date and we had to reset the whole thing. Mostly, we would go out there after close or super early in the morning, and work until people came back to the store or they opened. It was about an hour drive for us, but we didn't mind because it was good money. The staff there told us to just come in comfy or street clothes, so we could just focus and get the job done. One day they asked us to come early because the manager there would not be able to stay late as usual, which was fine for us. I showed up in some grey sweatpants and an anime t-shirt and started working right away. Close to closing, there was a huge line up front, all hands on deck at the register situation, and a nice lady came up to me and asked my opinion on a moisturizer. I had no issues helping her as she was being nice and even apologized after she noticed the sweatpants. I even walked her up to the register line and started walking away when I heard the sound of an angered Karen. "Excuse me, why aren't you on the registers too?" "Oh, sorry ma'am, I don't actually work here." I tried to explain, but she wasn't having it. "I've seen you stocking shelves. Get up there and help right now. I'm running late." "I'm sorry, ma'am. I really don't have the ability to run the registers even if I wanted to." No, don't lie to me again. Just run the registers." I wasn't lying. The issue is I was not trained for, nor did I have the credentials to run registers at this store. I realized I was getting nowhere and just shrugged and walked back to my project. She would soon be gone, right? Wrong. Soon I see the familiar soccer mom haircut bounding its way to me with the manager in tow. It was her who ignored me. What kind of company is this that allows employees to wear sweatpants while they are working? Me and the manager exchanged looks. Both of us had had about enough of it. "Ma'am, that's a member of the project team. She doesn't work here." This enraged Karen even more. "Project team? I don't see how sitting on your lazy ass is a project. I want to talk to your manager." She pointed at me. I realized this wasn't going to end anytime soon, so I stood up. "Okay, go right on ahead. If you want to drive for about an hour, be my guest." "No, I want to speak with them now." "Well, she isn't here. Can I take a message?" At this point, the store was closed and she was making a racket, so other customers were sticking around to see how it ended. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, our store is closed. If you would like, I can give you our corporate number. You can bring it up there." "No, I want to take care of this right now. This stupid little bitch has made me late." "Ma'am, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the authorities and charge trespassing." "Go right ahead. I'm already late. I'll wait all night." The manager had run away to go call the cops. Now my co-worker must have either seen this or taken her headphones out long enough to hear some commotion because she came over too. "What's going on over here?" "Finally, your manager." My co-worker clearly hadn't heard all of what happened because she gave me a confused look. "What? Oh, I'm sorry. We don't actually work here. We're just on the project team." I don't know if that was just the last straw for Karen or if maybe she realized the police were at the door. This was a big shopping center in a rich neighborhood. Security and cops just kinda hung around. Because she sank to the ground and started throwing a tantrum, like full-on crying, flailing, wailing tantrum. I just walked away and let them carry her out. She got a warning and was told to never come back to that location. Me and my co-worker decided it was probably best to avoid going in the store when there were people in it. I never had any issues with customers again while on the project team. Rats, on the other hand, is a completely different story. 2. Little bit of backstory. I am half black Afrikaans and half white British. Because of this mix, I'm a lighter-skinned biracial. I also have long, straight black hair. Mix it all together, and I don't look very African or very British. I look like I'm from Southeastern Asia. And I get called Indian and Pakistani a lot. It's fine. I just correct them, and most of the time it's nothing. But not this time. Okie pokey, onto the story. Cast me, mostly European, EA entitled as, E employee, nice dude. So I was hungry and decided I wanted Indian. There was a local Indian takeout place near me and I wanted to take a walk, so I went there instead of having it delivered like I would usually. It's a small shop, but it was quite busy. So I waited, and after 10 minutes I felt a tap on my shoulder.
"Hey, What's chicken sag paneer?
Oh, I think it's like a spinach and chicken dish in a sweet sauce. Think paneer is a sort of cheese, like halloumi? I was kind of guessing. I've had it once ages ago. You should probably ask. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, you should know. Typical teens.
I just ignored her. And the fact that she cut the line to ask me. The queue was still pretty long, and they're understaffed, so the few were working really hard.
You really should help them. I can't believe you're just standing around. You're a pretty useless employee.
I'm not really listening, so I didn't catch what she said. What?
I said you should be working. I want my order taken. They could at least hire someone who understands English, for fuck's sake.
Sorry, I don't work here. I'm tired at this point, so I chose to neglect the "doesn't speak English" comment. Also, I spoke perfect English before, so it made even less sense.
Of course you work here. Look at you, gotcha, lazy. You should be fired. Take my order.
She started ranting, and then started listing her order, all whilst I repeated that I don't work here. Other customers were staring, but my time sucks. No one was going to help me. I don't work here.
Of course you do. You're Indian. This is an Indian. I'm not stupid.
Please, I'm not Indian. I don't work here. I can't serve you.
Don't lie to me. You are Indian. You just don't want to do your job. I'm going to speak to your manager. Hopefully he won't be a fucking Indian.
This really confused me. She implied that only Indians worked there, then asks for a non-Indian staff member. At this point she was causing a commotion, so an actual employee came over. Note, this person is not Indian, nor are any of the staff that I can see. Is there a problem?
Yeah, this useless employee won't do her job.
Sorry, but this person doesn't work for us. She's a customer like yourself.
Don't bullshit me. She's an Indian. She works here.
I'm not Indian. I'm British. Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're being racist. 1, you don't have to be Indian to work here. 2, the lady said she isn't Indian and that she doesn't work here.
I want my food. You can't kick me out.
If you don't leave, I'll call the police for harassment. EA proceeds to rush out of the door at the mention of police. But not without shouting swears and busting out a term used only by rap artists, politicians, and morons. I'm aware there's a bit of overlap with the last two. The employee says that he will try and have her banned from the shop. He also gave me free poppadoms. So, overall, wasn't the worst day. 3. It's early December 2003, and I am working in a retail chain store. The district manager for the region decided it would be a nice treat for us to have a non-denominational winter holiday party in a party venue. This included the employees of the 5 stores in her district, about 200 people in total. It was a nice gesture. We all worked pretty hard, still coming down from Black Friday. Most of the employees were doing 10 to 20 hours of overtime, which is normally no big deal, but during the holiday rush, everything is at a more frantic speed. We were all stressed, and it was nice to get a couple hours to hang out with co-workers, meet some of the people from the other stores, have a few drinks and just unwind. Most of the employees were arriving at the venue straight off of a long shift, still dressed in the work uniform, polos and khakis. One of my co-workers, I'll call him Jason, however, had been to a funeral for an uncle, and arrived about an hour later than the rest of us in more formal attire. As chance would have it, one of the regional manager's district manager's bosses was also named Jason. You can see where this is going. Sorry, no suspenseful build-up or shocking plot twists. Drunk people are amazingly predictable. People were mingling and chatting, introductions were being made to employees of our sister stores, etc. The beers were flowing, and as tends to happen, the room was gradually growing louder and more disorganized with every round of drinks. A very drunk young lady from one of the other stores, none of us caught her name that night, sat down with our group and immediately began flirting with Jason. Now, he's the kind of guy who gets this type of inebriated female attention a lot, and he will roll with it. After a few minutes, he excuses himself to the restroom. The girl not so subtly gestures in the same direction a moment behind him. A few of my female co-workers looking on giggling. She's headed towards the men's room. Doesn't she realize that's the wrong door? She must be really drunk. thinking it was a mistake. I'm thinking, Jason, you dog. Having seen similar events play out with him in the past, she disappears into the men's room. 2 minutes later, she bursts out of the bathroom door, loudly with a shrill scream, so slurred none of us knew what she was trying to say. But it did get everyone's attention as the rest of the room fell completely silent, and all eyes turned toward her. As she's stumbling while trying to get her arm back through her bra strap, underneath her now soaking wet polo shirt, which was obviously not going to work, she grabbed her purse and one of her friends and stomped and huffed all the way to the parking lot. We're all stunned, and the silence is broken by the sound of the hand dryer in the men's room. And Jason strolls out, grin on his face, shaking his head. The official story he gave to avoid embarrassing her was that she was drunk and mistakenly thought he was in the women's room, and not the other way around. That satisfied the curious onlookers, but discreetly he pulled me, our store manager, and the district manager aside and gave us the real story, in case there were any claims filed later. She had walked in and stood beside him at the urinal, reaching around and offered to help. He suggested a stall might be a more private place for that kind of thing. So they found their way to the stall. She sat him down and proceeded to with an awkward drunken lap dance, taking off her shirt while grinding in his lap. The whole time she's talking about her bad day. She's gyrating around, rubbing his chest, thrusting her chest into his face, and all the while complaining that her manager doesn't pay her enough. He, as most men in that situation do, offers a few words of faint acknowledgement.
You should I bet she gave me a raise. She has to listen to you.
I really can't do that. Sliding a hand down his pants to persuade him,
but you're her boss. She has to do what you tell her.
No, she's my boss too. I work in receiving. She's my boss's boss's boss. A moment of silence. Then she's giving him a death glare. She pulls her hand away, slaps him several times on the arms and chest, gets off his lap and begins blubbering incoherently as she picks her shirt up off the bathroom floor. He stands up. She's getting her second wind of rage, whips her shirt at him in anger, which subsequently landed half in the toilet. She grabs it, throws it on anyway, and storms out. Word got around our store a few weeks later that she had resigned. At this point, everyone in our store knew the real story. But her store kept up the false story to preserve her dignity and called her termination a resignation so she could save face. Though the cover story didn't explain why she was covered in toilet water and was fumbling with her bra, I think rumors had begun to circulate on her side of town too. Rather than graciously accepting the cover story, she had concocted her own version where some sleazy guy got her drunk. She was blitzed before he arrived, dragged her into the bathroom. Witnesses refute him dragging her anywhere, and he tried to molest her. Her story got more and more outlandish, filled with contradictory details that didn't line up with 100 witness accounts. Like how he chased her to the parking lot never happened, she just wouldn't drop it. Chalk it up to alcohol and let it go. So I think that's the real reason she was let go. She just had to be the victim. But maybe she did see it that way. She was too drunk to really understand what was happening. Either way, Jason decided it was time for him to find another job as well. Not fired, the company had his back, but rumors persisted within the company. Plus, he had just gotten done burying a family member that day, and his workload was insane. He was just done with things after that. This story stuck with me. I remember seeing this pretty girl throwing herself at him and thinking, "You lucky SOB," and 2 minutes later my envy changing to pity and sympathy. 4. Okay, so in short, what happened before the woman came is me and my brother went to a self-service, I hope that's what it's called, restaurant. The employees there must wear their own red uniforms, while I was wearing some shorts and a red shirt. Sure, both are red, but the difference is huge. Oh, so I'm like 16. This restaurant doesn't accept people below 18 as employees. And so I went to get whatever we needed and headed back to the table. I was heading back with a plate. A woman stopped me and said, "Your service is terrible. Why didn't you come and take my order?" She was calm, and I thought, well, she must be here for the first time. "Oh, I'm sorry, if you want to order, you need to go inside, where the actual employees are, and get your food." And those were my two biggest mistakes. I talked as if I worked there, and I told her to get her food. She went inside and grabbed herself a Coke and a banista, it's a Bulgarian food, and headed out without going to pay. I was already sitting with my brother talking because I didn't think much of her and thought she didn't realize what is happening and move on. After exiting without paying, one of the employees came out and stopped her and told her she needed to pay, and if she doesn't, she'll call the police. It's often that people think you can just pay later here, so the employee is probably used to it by now. "What? I need to pay for my own food, but also pay for my own service?" "Of course you need to pay. We don't give out free drinks and food here. Now come in and pay, or I'll call the police." At that time, the guards were already blocking every exit in case she tries to run away, and I didn't even recognize the woman, but was watching. "But your co-worker over there told me I can." She pointed at me, and at this point, she was talking loudly, but not quite yelling. And that's where the BS started. The employee came to me and yelled, "Why did you lie to our customer, try to get her in trouble? And why are you not in the kitchen to help the others?" "I don't work here." "Yes you do, I've seen you in the kitchen before." My brother says, "Nope, I can assure you my sister doesn't work here. She's 16 and is working a part-time job in another town. So please, stop bothering us and go explain to the woman how a self-service restaurant works." I didn't have time to say anything. "But then why is she wearing our uniform?" "This isn't your uniform. It's just a red shirt. And as you can see, I don't have a name tag like the employees do. And I'm 16, as my brother said. Your shop wouldn't even hire me part-time." "Okay, how about coming in till our manager is inside and ask him?" "Okay. Can you just tell me where to pay?" So the guards told her where to pay, she paid and went to sit. While me and my brother went to the manager of the little place, he instantly said he recognized me as his student in PE. After a small chat with him and the employee later being yelled at, we went back to eat. It was a bit unexpected to get yelled at for looking like a co-worker, and then meet my old PE teacher. 5. I live in a tiny town that does not have a local Target. Why I chose to live in my little racist podunk of a town is beyond me, but I'm here for the foreseeable future. The closest store is about 55 miles away, far enough for it to warrant a special trip whenever I'm in said town. My 92-year-old grandmother had a meeting with her new nephrologist, and we took it upon ourselves to do a little shopping. Grana has limited mobility, but she is still sharp as a tack. Before we stopped at Target, Grana had me stop at the liquor store for a bottle of E&J and picked up her glaucoma medicine. She wanted a pack of Newports, but I knew Mom would kill me if I bought Grana cigarettes, considering she was supposed to stop smoking 40 years ago. After our errands, we finally got to the holy grail of our travels. Now, before I get into the full story, I must mention that I had the trifecta Karen bat signal. Mistake number 1. I decided to wear a Red Heart Association shirt and khaki shorts, which, if anyone has been to Target, that's Target for those of you not in the US, will know that their uniforms are red shirts and khaki pants. Mistake number 2. Grana decided to use her motor chair and had me grab items she can't reach, so it always looked like I was helping a customer. Mistake number 3. I was breathing. So, I'm sure you already know what's coming. I was stopped by several people who thought I worked there. The majority were nice enough to say sorry when they realized their mistake. There were a couple that I even helped find what they needed. But after a while, it was wearing thin on Grana and I. Grana and I were looking at sporting goods trying to decide what to get my soon-to-be 11-year-old nephew for his birthday. As I'm lightweight arguing with my lovely grandmother over an appropriate gift, Karen enters the scene. She was a typical Karen. She had the haircut, superficial tan, and sunglasses perched on her badly highlighted hair. Karen sees what looks like an employee helping an elderly woman, while I'm trying to put back the useless crap my Grana insists on buying. She taps me on the shoulder. I sigh, turn around and tell her, sorry, I don't work here. I can't help you. This was the worst thing I could possibly do. Sorry, I don't work here. Then why are you helping her? Pointing to my wonderful Grana. Maybe because she gave birth to my mother? This goes over, poor Karen said. I could have spoken Mandarin for all she cared. Whatever. Now that you're done helping her, you can check the back for this bathroom set. It says that it's in stock online. I told you, I don't work here. Yes, you do, you're wearing a uniform. Just because I'm wearing a red shirt and shorts doesn't mean I work here. Well, you can help me because you're obviously lying. At this point, I see that there is no getting through to Karen and just want to leave. So I tell Grana it was time to go home, and Karen starts complaining and telling me that she's going to get me fired. Look, my granddaughter has told you several times she doesn't work here, but you're too slow or stupid to understand. Now, if you don't mind, I have to go take a piss. Come on, baby, let's go. We leave Karen gaping like a fish out of water, turning a curious shade of red. We finish up our shopping and see Karen at the registers. Grana wanted to get in line behind her and start talking about how people these days have no respect and don't know how to act. Karen doesn't say anything and just pays for her items. But we did get some enjoyment out of watching her credit card decline, so she had to use her debit card. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 59. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. You know, I don't think I've ever once been mistaken for an employee in a store, but I do get approached by people a lot, asking me to help them with things. Usually it's, getting something off of a shelf, and I do, if I see somebody struggling on their tippy toes, I will help them with that. I'm not super tall, but I'm tall enough to reach any shelf. I'm about 5'10", teeny weeny bit over. However, I don't know if I mentioned this before, a few weeks back now I was in a store, it was a local store called Home Bargains, all across the UK these things. And this woman comes up to me, maybe mid-40s if I was going to guess, and he said, "Oh, excuse me, could you help me with something?" I was like, yeah, of course. I don't think she believed I was an employee, but obviously not, because I wasn't dressed remotely like employees. I was wearing all black with probably a True Blood t-shirt on, and carrying a basket full of energy drinks, most likely. I said, yeah, okay, fine, no problem. And I thought she wanted something off a shelf that she was right next to. No. She leads me around half the store before we get to the aisle that she wanted help with. And there's always employees milling about, so I don't know what was going on. Anyway, that was an odd experience, but I was happy to help, but it's just, don't make me walk that far if you need my help. I mean, that's just kind of taking advantage a little bit. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.